So you were held at Guantanamo for more than 5 years.
Yeah, it was about 5 years and 7 months or 6 months, I think.
When did you hear that you might be released?
It was 1 month, I think, before we were released. I was told, I wasn't even told by the Americans themselves. I was I was locked up most of the time in Camp 5, which is a worse prison than other prisons. As soon as they built Camp 5, which was about 2005, I was moved to Camp 5 and I was locked up in Camp 5. So I was in complete isolation. Even before that, in the cells, I was usually locked up in Oscar or November, those isolation cells. So I was in isolation. I didn't know nothing. Then they've moved me to another caged prison cell, which is not usual for me to be put in those cages. They put Jamil Banna next to me, another prisoner who is from this country. And he told me the news. He said to me that he met the lawyers, and the lawyers told him that we'll be released soon.
Did you get to see your lawyer in Guantanamo?
I did meet the lawyers. My lawyer was Clive Stafford Smith, who has done so much for Guantanamo, and he worked so hard, and he was hated by many people. I mean, they tried to even accuse him of things when he came to Guantanamo Bay. He endlessly, campaigned to make Guantanamo what it was. So did many other lawyers, really. I mean, so many American lawyers who were, some of them were honest and brave, and they had good conscience to stand by the truth, and they did a lot. Like people from were appointed from the CCR and other organizations who worked tirelessly and still are. There are some lawyers which deserve respect. They've worked hard and they were brave enough to change the things. Yeah, I've met the lawyer, but not the last year. The last year in Guantanamo, I had some problems with my lawyer, even though he worked hard and good. But we had some problems and issues. I told him I won't work with him inside Guantanamo because it wasn't so difficult for us. Because if he was to do anything outside, even if we objected, we weren't able to say anything because we were inside prison. Our voices weren't heard outside. So I didn't meet the lawyers. I've stopped meeting the lawyers until I was released, and then now I still meet him and work with him closely. Actually, I work. One of my jobs are working in Reprieve, which is the organization which Clive Stafford Smith has founded. And I also work with many other organizations in England, like Caged Prisoners and Guantanamo Justice Center and many other law firms.
Omar, if I may, this is Almerindo. Can you tell a little bit about the medical personnel there, psychologists, psychiatrists, or physicians?
Yeah, that's another sad, side of the story, is that even doctors, which I never imagined that they went to a level that the doctors were part of the interrogation. The doctors who were working in Guantanamo Bay used to work closely with interrogation. Sometimes people were very sick. They had kidney failures or problems, and they start screaming and shouting. The doctors will come in, and he'll look at them, and he'll give them, if he wanted to, he'll give them sometimes relief tablets. But he's saying, no medicine, I can't do anything until you cooperate with your interrogation. This is something that used to be largely, I mean, if you speak to anyone in Guantanamo, he'll tell you about that. And one of the most frightening thing to us when we were locked up in Guantanamo is that we feared that we will catch any disease or any illnesses, because that disease will be badly used against you. Because we saw lots of people who had even operations. Sometimes they had young junior doctors. Just, I don't know why they did that. They probably had somebody in the army or family relative who they came in and to make complicated operations on people. They used people like experiments, and most of these operations were failures. One guy had a heart operation nearly 8 or 9 times. Every time they say it failed, it failed, it failed. Another person, his name is Saleh Yemeni, this is the heart failure. Abu Imran al-Taifi, another man from Nigeria, they've amputated his leg, and then they say the operation was a failure, then they amputated it again, and then they did something else again. It was like endless. And it's not once or twice, was the practice. That if you agreed to have an operation, serious operation inside Guantanamo, it's usually junior, unexperienced doctors who are using Guantanamo as a training field, maybe because of there's some connection with somebody in the military, a colonel or somebody who has their uncle or something like that. And because of that, people had serious illnesses sometimes. Even when they were offered an operation, they were scared to take it because of people who were in front of us, who were experiencing all these kind of things. So the doctors were working very closely with interrogators. Some of them, the psychic doctors, they stand there in interrogation, they assess what to be said against you and what is not to be said, what is to be used, because every person in Guantanamo was differently treated. That's why every person, I think, has a lot to say in Guantanamo, because every person has been treated completely different than the other person. They call it phobias, they use phobias. So every person has different, they think, have different fears about something in particular. And that thing in itself will be used against him more than others, or he will be mistreated in a different way than others. So that's why they had guards going all the time around the cages, all the time. Like Terry will tell you, like every hour they had to write down what every prisoner was doing each hour. They'll say he's sitting down, he's laughing, he's exercising, he's sleeping, he's depressed. And they used anything, even your family connections, your letters to your families. For example, me and my wife, I didn't receive any letter from my wife for 7 years inside prison, neither did she. I wrote a lot to her, she wrote a lot to me, but both of us didn't receive any letters. And when I came out from prison, I say, why? She was saying to me, why did you not? Our marriage actually completely broke because of that. And many people's ties and relationship with their families were broken because of the abuse and the censorship that they used everything. Every means was lawful to those people in Guantanamo, sadly.